Hi, so what I'm going to do today is just give you kind of a brief introduction to assignment writing. What I'm going to do is I'll share my screen so you can see some materials to kind of guide us through this discussion. So when writing an assignment, your first job is to download the assignment brief. So in here you've got in your assignment area, which is just down the left-hand side, you've got all your different submission dates and all your documentation for that submission. So your first job is to download the submission information. So you click on here, it will then prompt you to save locally or open. And for mine, it's just save that locally. So what I'm going to do is just go and grab that. Just give me a second. So what it does is obviously downloaded to my download area the particular assignment brief. So in here you've got an overview of what the assignment requires with the specific word count and relative weighting. It's really important that you read this and split this up. This is kind of like your first step in split it into sections. So this is obviously assignment number 4, but it's got a similar description as all the other assignments. So in here, it asks you to discuss about the knowledge acquisition process you've undertaken and then talk about your dissemination strategy. So there would be your kind of 2 main headings for your 2 sections. So before you start an assignment, it's always important to kind of write kind of a list of topics you're going to cover within the assignment. That's kind of like your first step, is to kind of design a plan, and that will be based off your description here. We also give more specific guidance about the criteria and how it's marked, with a description of the weightings. These weightings are kind of universal across all modules in regards to kind of the application area, levels of critical analysis, knowledge and reflection. They're standardized across every module you'll take, and the principles are standardized. So what I'm going to do is teach you the principles of how you achieve in each of those despite the subject. So despite it's my module, John's module, or whatever module you're taking, the idea is these principles are universal, so we look for the same type of demonstration of knowledge, and I'm going to show you how you can guarantee near enough that you can produce these consistently. So a lot of people who don't achieve well at university is not necessarily that it's about ability, it's mainly about not knowing exactly what's required. So I'm going to try to break it down as clearly as possible what these particular terms represent in regards to an assessment of how they would look and how you would obviously achieve these. So you kind of get like a recipe to undertake your assignment. So I'm going to give that, probably I'll use that as a bit of an analogy, that recipe idea. So obviously what we're going to do initially is write down a plan. So that theoretically is like equivalent to a recipe. That would be like your ingredients list of what you need. So you've got your list of all your topics, and that would be your first step. So usually in this, you'd open a Word document, something like this. I've already got a pre-sectioned paragraph, which we're going to talk about later on, but we'll move up here to show you how it may look at the start. So what you might have is kind of your topic areas. So your first one might be something like, in this case, basic strategies in acquisition process. So you might want to talk about your search strategy first, or you might want to talk about your acquisition or synthesis methods, but it's a particular section. So within that assignment brief, which we've just showed you before, which explains exactly what you need to do here, it's a particular section out of here, and then you list them in like topic headings, and there you kind of structure for your assignment. So obviously this one is a later assignment. It doesn't matter what the assignment is, the information here will tell you exactly what you need to do for any assignment for the whole course. So your first step is to read that and then break that down into individual sections and then put that in a Word document. So this is the advice I usually give to people of how to write an assignment. So you can't write anything in university terms or in a sense research terms without evidence. So this is why we're going to create kind of a back structure or a recipe of all the ingredients we need, and then we're going to go away and get the ingredients. One of the common mistakes what people make when writing assignments is they will have a plan to write a paragraph and need to start for whatever reason, time delayed or whatever it would be, they need to rush it, and they end up trying to write without evidence, and then they say, oh, I'll find a reference to say that later, and it's kind of the worst case scenario because you'll spend very excessive amount of time, and especially you'll probably have already experienced this, trying to find a reference to fit your narrative. It's supposed to be evidence-based practice, not practice-based evidence. So the idea is that we start with the evidence first and then make recommendations to practice. So you need to find the research first and then write from there. So I usually give the obviously a kind of scenario for what the other kind of mistake is regards to people starting the assignment without enough evidence. So you might have one reference and then you'll try to start writing from there. You need enough evidence to write the whole paragraph so you can fit each reference in order of where it will best fit. And the scenario is if you were kind of making a cake, you wouldn't necessarily go to the shop, get the ingredients, say flour, come back to your house, weigh it out, put it on the table, and then go, right, I need an egg. Go back to the shop, go and get an egg, come back, crack it up and put it in the ingredients. And then, okay, I need I need butter, and do the same scenario again. When you're cooking, what your first thing you do is you go to the shop, buy all your ingredients, weigh it all out, put it into sections, and then have an order of how you're going to put it all in. And that's kind of similar to a good assignment. What you're going to do is go to your database, gather all your ingredients, meaning gathering multiple references for that particular section, cut the bits out what you actually need from that reference, and then when you've got 5 or 6 references for that paragraph, you start to write. And that's the kind of best case scenario for writing a comprehensive paragraph, which will demonstrate your knowledge in that particular field or domain or area. So what you need to do is obviously have your topic area. Just as an example, NHS, I'm just going to have that as a title as something we're going to have a look at. Obviously the assignments are all different, so I'm just giving you a broad example of a particular search strategy and how we'd find information around that area. But whatever subject you are looking at, it's the same procedure. So despite it being on knowledge acquisition, database design, whatever the process is, the steps are the same. You identify the key areas of that particular assignment, you headline the particular areas what need to be completed in that assignment, and then you find references under that section before you write. So you need to find multiple references. So we're just going to have a quick look for references regarding the NHS. So these references I'm going to find aren't going to be specific because it'll take ages, but it takes a reasonable amount of time to find specific references on the subject. It's not like as easy as what I'm going to particularly demonstrate now. What you'll usually have to do is spend, maybe I usually say 2 days gathering references before an assignment. So in the grand scheme of writing an assignment, I would say that if you spent those 2 days gathering just the references and refining them, that's roughly about 70% of the work, and you haven't written a single word. So, it's important you spend that time gathering. So today I'm not going to obviously find specific references for a topic area because I haven't got, obviously the time is, hopefully we can make this as short as possible. So I'm not going to spend the time, but I'm going to show you the kind of process of how it would work practically. And then obviously, you'll go away and then carry out this more concisely, looking for references in your particular given field or section. So I'm going to grab that title. And then we're going to go to a database and show you how that would work in a search strategy. So majority of information you're going to be looking for might probably come from PubMed. We do have a more broader university website search engine, which I'll just show you now. Just 1 second. UCLan Library. Yeah. Just 1 second. Not that one. Good old Bing. Search for courses, 1 second. I hate Bing. Like Google. Let's try to use a Google. Straight away in Google. So we have got a more broader university search engine which will search for everything, including book resources, every database, every access we have, which is obviously goes into engineering, goes into all different fields. So it's a lot broader. You've got methods in there to refine it, but what I'm going to do today is just show you more specific searches, just so we can find some more relevant information using a single database instead of this type of meta database which looks at everything. they're as good as each other. So I'll just show you a quick search on this. What it does is it brings up obviously access to everything we have all access to. So these are books, journals, everything. So you can refine to specific types. So you can look for journal articles only. So you can refine to articles, you can refine it to books. Say, for example, you're looking more for a definition, which is more likely in a book. You can refine it to a specific topic type or subject type, or in this case, entity type. When you click onto there, what you can do is you can show you where you can gain access to it. So it'll show if it's available online. Usually, obviously, if you're logged in via Web of Knowledge, you can, not Web of Knowledge, remote access through Cinel. Through Citrix, sorry, you can click on that and gain straight access to it. If not, you'll have to go through the kind of the game you play is where's the login page. So what you're looking for is, I'll do one actually just to show you an example. You log in and if it loads, there we go. What you're looking for some of these is institutional login, find your institution. So in this case, it's quite clear. Some cases it can be anywhere on this page. It can be up in the corner, it could be up in the middle. So different databases have that find your institutional login in different places. But that's the idea. What you're looking for is somewhere on that page it'll say login, and the specific login type you're looking for is institutional. You then find the institution, which is University of Central Lancashire. You fill out your information, you click on submit, and then it will push you through to the resource and the PDF or whatever data you're looking for. As I'm here, what I'll also show you is that in the library database, the same as I'm going to show you in PubMed, it has an auto citation tool. So you just got this button here when you're in the resource. If you want to use this resource, instead of spending time trying to reference it yourself, you can just cut and paste this reference here, which will be the reference you put in your reference list, and obviously in text to use the author date as we use APA as a referencing standard, and there is referencing guidance in the module area about how to do this. So I'm just going to go back to PubMed. Just 1 second, see if I've got PubMed open. Nope. Is it open there? Nope. Just find it myself. So in PubMed, it's a similar type of term search strategy. So you type in a term you're looking for, you then find the resource. You then obviously it gives you the link to the specific area where it's hosted. So this is obviously hosted full text online. For referencing, you've got a similar citation button, so we can just copy that reference there. And I think by default is actually APA on. Let's have a look. Yeah, it looks APA to me. You can copy paste that into the text area into your reference list. It might need slight tweaking. I can't see any mistakes in there for APA. I said italicize for issue, but I think that's the only thing. So yeah, you'd be able to copy that and then get 90% of the information with some slight tweaks in regards to italicizing issue number. So that will give you the citation. For the information, you click on the link. Obviously, it then pushes you through to the particular resource or full document. So I'm going to talk about is obviously how you'd build an assignment. So typically you'd find the information you want. So in this case, it might be some particular facts are based on the effectiveness. I don't know what this result, this particular paper is about, but say it's some results element what you're interested in. What you typically do is cut that into your area. I have a text-to-speech software which reads things out to me. So in here, when you've pasted it across, that's kind of the section of information you're looking for. And in this case, it's really important that every time you think you're going to use something, despite if you're going to or not use it, you have that citation there. So it's always important that you have the information, what you need to reference it at a later date. Worst case scenario is you then decide to use that information, you can't remember where you got it from. So it's really important that if you're going to start building your kind of referencing piles, every time you gather a reference you think that might be relevant, you take the information from that particular section, you then cite it underneath so you have a clear example of what the information is. I'm just going to grab one more. 1 second. Just going to grab one more random reference just so we can add it to the page. And 3. So it just saves me logging in. That's why I just put these filters on. So let's go grab another one. So I'm also interested in the results from this paper. Then I'll remember it's always important to grab the reference, so we're just going to grab the citation. So when you start building up your reference list, like I say, you typically want about 5 references per paragraph before you start writing. It's not that you're going to use all 5, you might only use 2 of them, but you need enough evidence to kind of substantiate your analysis. So we're going to talk about like an average paragraph below now, but this is kind of what you do in regards to building your evidence, and you gather as much evidence around that area as you can. And even when you're reading, just grab everything. So a common mistake is sometimes you'll read something and you're like, oh, I probably wouldn't put that in. And then later on you write yourself into a corner and you're like, oh, where did I find that reference would fit there? And you can't find it. So it's really important that any type of reading you do is active reading, meaning that you're reading for your assignment. So anytime you're reading, however broad it is, and you find something you think might be related to your assignment, take the information, then reference it there and then, just because if you do need it at a later date and you can't find it, it can be quite problematic to try to find it again. So always try to grab it as you read it. And it's the same when if you're doing any type of reading, try to make it productive, that it's contributing to your assignment. So that's kind of what you do, is you build as many references as you can, and then you start thinking which is the best way. So I'm going to open maybe with this reference here. So what you'd do is you'd put that at the top, and you'd put them in the order you're going to write them in. Then what you do is you open another Word document, and then you start writing. So what I do is I have these kind of 2 open, and then what I do is because I have multiple desktops, I have one open on one desktop, one on the other, and then I write across. So I'll write information about this, and then I'll move down to my second reference and write information about this, and it flows together. So the key about kind of a good paragraph is that you link the references together. So I'm going to give you kind of a brief introduction to kind of a basic paragraph. So a basic paragraph has kind of 3 main parts. You've got a topic sentence. This could be a sentence which introduces by highlighting the kind of importance of the area, or the it can be a basic sentence. It could be just something like, we'll say, we are now looking at the next area of, in this case, PCOR, but say like your first assignment, it could be looking at the first area of, or looking at the first issue of time management within the project. The main issue was X. So it can be just a broad sentence which introduces the reader to what you're going to discuss within that paragraph. They call it a topic sentence. So it's kind of introducing the reader that in this paragraph, we're going to discuss X. All your assignments are pretty standardized. So what we ask you to do is we ask you to get a part from your workplace, an element or a particular issue from your workplace, and then reflect upon it in regards to what would the evidence suggest you should have done or should do in future practice. So the paragraphs are pretty standard. Whatever you're going to reflect upon, that will be a topic sentence. So it will say, we are now going to address, or the area of under discussion, or the main problem of the project was, and then you introduce whatever the particular area you're going to address. So it can be really simple topic sentence, or you've got like a more advanced topic sentence, what we got here, which is a reference introducing the topic area. So why it's important in regards to kind of the research side of things. Then you have the evidence around the particular area. In this case, it's about PCORs. PCORs are a way to define a research question. So it's an area talking about the different terms and sections you could actually use to define your question. The kind of levels we analyze your assignment on are kind of, you remember them in that assignment brief, we had those, got this open, yep, these sections here. These are kind of broken up into very simple concepts. So knowledge is your ability to take that information and put it into your own words, and do it in the sense of the broadest sense, demonstrating all obviously the wide range of research which is out there, demonstrating, in the sense you've got multiple references from multiple sites, you've clearly understood what it means, you've put it into your own words, and you've applied it properly. That's how we gauge knowledge. The other way we've got is application. So that means you take the information which is indicated within the research and then apply it back to practice. So in this case, it might be PCOR variables. So what you've done is you said PCORs are identified by population, intervention, comparison, and outcome. In regards to my research project, the population was X, the intervention was X, the outcome was X, the comparator was whatever. The idea is that you're taking that information, what the research says, and telling me what it means, or telling us what it means in regard to the assignment. So that's what we mean by application. It's taking the research and reflecting upon it in context to what you did or didn't do, or what you're going to plan to do. So some of your assignments, we actually to kind of plan to do a database. In this case scenario, you would then describe what the evidence would suggest you should do, instead of obviously telling me what you did do. But the idea is that you're taking the research and applying it to the assignment brief. You're taking it to that scenario of what we're asking you to apply it to. You've got this other thing called critical analysis. This can be in two ways. We can ask you to critically analyze the application. So if you did do something, didn't do something, what would the pros and cons would be? So that's very kind of that simple critical analysis. We also can see critical analysis when you analyze the research quality itself. So you tell us the kind of pros and cons of the quality of the research and the possible introduction of bias and what this effect would be in regards to applying the research to practice. But they're the kind of two main ways. The easiest way, like I said, is just that simple, what are the pros and cons of applying this in regards to your particular area of practice? And then you've got reflection, which is the last point, which is what does all that mean? So if you've told me the pros and cons, what does that mean to future practice? These sections all link back to that paragraph. So we've got our topic sentence, which gives us that introduction. Got our main body of text, which tells us about the particular area, which is our knowledge, showing us that we understand what the subject is and what it means. We've got our, in this case, they've compared and supported this. So this is critical analysis, where they've actually found two references agreeing. So you'll see here this second kind of green section is saying that they support this first section. So they're saying this guy says this and this is supported by this. So this gives you kind of two elements, demonstrates your knowledge of analysis and also demonstrates your knowledge of knowledge. So you can only really find two people agreeing if you've done a wide range of reading. So it's one of the ways we verify that you have a large knowledge around the subject, because you've done a large amount of reading to demonstrate that kind of comparison, or in this case consensus around the subject area. And then we've got this bit here, which is our an application. So this is where they've obviously analysis. This is where they talk about the pros and cons of the approach. So we talked about this as a way to demonstrate analysis, is where you talk about what is the advantages and disadvantages of using that particular technique. So why is it helpful and not helpful? And you can do that in any assignment. So whatever assignment we've asked you to write about, you want to try to find references talking about the advantage and disadvantage of the particular approach or under discussion. So if we ask you to analyze a particular project you've managed, we want to find references which talk about the pros and cons of the approach you took. So if you use the PRINCE2 methodology, what are the advantages and disadvantages of that method, and did you experience that? If you're going to talk about project creep, what are the kind of pros and cons of managing project creep, and what are the kind of, like, obviously in the sense methods of managing project creep. So things like having clear KPIs. So what are the advantages of having clear KPIs to having vague KPIs? So vague KPIs may be more dynamic, so your project can obviously be reactive. Having very stringent KPIs can be problematic in regards to kind of like only achieving those specific things and maybe missing out on other opportunities for development. But that's the idea. You're trying to think about the pros and cons of the approach you took. The key is the evidence. So this is what we're talking about when you're writing your assignment. For the higher grades, you need to substantiate those analysis with evidence. So as well as you knowing about the pros and cons, which is really good, we want you to definitely write those out. If you don't know, if you can't find research to substantiate your analysis, meaning that you can't find anyone to support your kind of pros and cons, what you experienced, that's fine. We still recommend you to write that up. To get the higher grades, we want you to have evidence to substantiate that analysis. So you're talking about, if you're going to say, for example, the advantages of having a Gantt chart is X, it's nice to have a reference, somebody substantiating that analysis. So if you're saying that it's really helpful because it gives a clear overview of the project, then it's helpful if you could find a reference to substantiate that. The key is, like I say, if you're writing first and then trying to find references to substantiate what you've done, you're going to take ages. If you've just gone out and read as much as you can around, in this case, Gantt charts, then you'll have the evidence already. So you don't try to come up with a narrative of the pros and cons yourself at the start. What you want to do is try to find the research to tell you what the pros and cons are, and then talk about if you experience them or not. So you're working from the evidence to practice instead of having an idea of what you want to say and trying to find references to substantiate it. So this introduces bias. So the idea is that we're trying to get you to in the long term, substantiate your practice with the evidence, that you approach a project with a problem, and then what you do is you find the research to look at the problem, pros and cons, and then present this in a format way which would obviously, in a career perspective, would allow you to obviously approach a research project or a project with, in your own area of practice, and find the pros and cons within the research, making recommendations before the fact. So you're not going to go and, I want to do this project and find research to substantiate that method. You're going to go and find the best method based on the evidence. So it's evidence-based practice. And that's the idea of what we're trying to, develop in your writing. So even though it's an assignment, the skill has a lot of practical application long term. So we're talking about things which you'll be using in your career long term, not just writing an assignment to pass this module. So these skills we see to be a universal skill set which will follow you throughout your whole career. So the last part of the paragraph, now we've kind of pros and cons of the particular problem, is the conclusion. In this case, it's a reflection. So it's really important that every paragraph you write has a reflection. So you've identified a problem, you've highlighted the pros and cons to that problem. What does that mean long term? So what would you do in the future? What would you recommend for your project? What if you've got, in this case, maybe like two methods, so they're comparing Pico against Spider, what would your recommendation would be for what you're going to do in that scenario? Then that's the idea, is that it's about reflecting upon and making recommendations, and every little paragraph is a mini assignment and also a mini reflection. You've got the introduction with the topic sentence, the evidence of the problem, the analysis, which is the pros and cons of the particular approach, and then you've got the reflection at the end, which is what should you do in future practice. And every paragraph is just the same. So whatever assignment you're writing, if you follow that methodology, it will allow you to achieve really well in those categories. So when we come to mark we try to positively mark. So what we try to do is find evidence to substantiate our grade. So we're trying to get you the best grade possible using these criteria. When you make our job really easy by using these sections and paragraphs and writing it in a specific way, which allows us to clearly demonstrate that you've achieved in regards to analysis, you've achieved in regards to knowledge, and you've achieved in regards to reflection, it makes it really easy for us to then substantiate that grade and give you the best grade possible. And that's a basic paragraph, and that's how we write every paragraph. And you'll see in here, I don't know how many references we've got in this paragraph. I would say about 12, no, probably about 7, 6, something like that. So you see, you've got to have a substantial amount of evidence before writing to gain this. This is probably, this assignment, it came from, got 80-odd%. So this is kind of the top level. So don't panic if you don't feel that you're nowhere near this. We don't expect you to be at this level at this point. The key is that you can work towards this. So, when you first start, you might just have, a couple of references describing the particular evidence around that area. And then you're going to tell me what it means to your practice. And then you're just going to reflect upon it. So you don't do this in-depth analysis of the pros and cons, which is fine. So that would get you roughly about 60% if I was marking a single paragraph of that type of application of knowledge. What you want to do is try to demonstrate all three. So that is application, meaning that you're going to take the evidence and tell me what it means to you in your practice or your scenario. You're going to analyze it, which tells me the pros and cons of the particular approach. If I did this, this would be good. If I did do this, the negatives of this would be X. And you could say, actually, to compensate this, we would do X. And that would be your analysis, the pros and cons. And then we've got the reflection, which is this part here where we talk about what does it mean as a whole. And when it comes to your final paragraph, so when you do your conclusion, if you've done these mini reflections at the end of each paragraph, the only thing you have to do is read each paragraph again and knit these couple of sentences together into a slightly different narrative. So what you might find is that when you read the end of each paragraph, there might be a common theme, something which actually seems to be occurring, which might be, you could say something, if it's a project management one, it could have been the project was rushed. So despite the particular area, when we're talking about project creep, stakeholder engagement, whatever principle of project management we're talking about, there seems to be a consistency in regards to what's going on, which was the project was rushed. And that would then lead to your final conclusion saying that in future practice, we'd make sure that the timeline or project life cycle would be longer, because this seems to be a consistent issue despite the factor under discussion. But that's the idea, is that you've kind of reflected upon each section and then made an overall conclusion. So I hope this helps. One of the things if you are worried about obviously where you are in your assignment, is one of the things I do recommend people do is to do this, which I've done in this assignment, is highlight this linking to this here. So what I do is highlight these into different colors. So this might be like in this case, the introduction and structure. So it's not really one thing I have to go to out of editing. There we go, scroll back down. So what we do is we'd highlight the particular colors. I can't remember what I used to be off the top of my head, but it's just gonna give them some label colors. There you are. And then what you do is in your assignment or in each paragraph, you do this. You highlight the particular sections relevant to each of those to show that you've demonstrated that type. So like I said, the key is the analysis. The key is the evidence. So some people want to keep in their own domain and keep where their expertise is. So they'll write a lot about the project. We don't know your project or clinical area regarding to what the project was. We know about the theory underpinning your projects. What we don't know is the project. So when you've said you experienced X, Y, and Z in your project, we wouldn't know if that happened or didn't happen. You could be making that up. So, and we don't expect that would be happening, but we don't mark that. What we do mark is your ability to take knowledge, research, and apply it to that scenario. So we're more interested in the research application than the scenario itself. So you want to spend the majority of your writing and evidence in your words discussing the particular area of application. So you will talk about your project, but you'll talk about it in context to what it means in the evidence. So when the evidence says this is what we experienced in the project. So it's always evidence first, then what happened in the project. And it's that time. So you can do it the other way around typically, but it's better to talk about the research. So in research, they say this. In our project, we experienced this. And those type of like highlighting in these sections, just make sure you achieve that type of narrative. And that you can keep this structure for every paragraph. Like you can keep that topic sentence, what the particular area we're going to discuss and what the research says, the pros and cons of that approach. And in this case, it would be what we did, what does that mean to us, and then what we're going to do in future practice with reflection. So if in that case now, you'd have all those sections. You'd have the demonstration of knowledge, you'd have the application of knowledge, you'd have the analysis, and then you'd have the reflection. So you consistently do that, and like I say, you're guaranteed that you achieve well in every assignment. The other thing I was going to say is don't panic too much about your referencing at the start. I mean, we do want it to be author text within text. We don't massively mark down in regards to missing a full stop after an et al, for example. These aren't the things I'm more concerned about. And the things that I'm worried about or more interested in, is your ability to take research and apply it to practice. They're the universal skills we want you to develop for your long-term career. And they're the things which in my own career, for example, has obviously made me able to achieve very well because I'm very good at taking research, understanding that and applying it back to practice. And that's what we want to instill in anybody who undertakes this course, is that whatever the subject, whatever the field, whatever the question, because in the future, you'll have lots of different questions outside what the realms of these assignments are going to be based upon in the next couple of years. We want you to be able to do the same scenario. You'll be able to go away, carry out a knowledge acquisition process where you go and research the particular area which you're looking to develop, or database, or whatever the clinical scenario is. And you can read the research, understand it, and then apply it back to practice. You can then make a recommendation to what you're going to do and set up a plan based on the research of how you're going to obviously implement or change or carry out that particular clinical scenario. So that's it. And the other thing would be, we're always open for you to send assignments to us. It's kind of a couple of ways to do this. One of the best ways I would find is, I don't know if you can do this. I mean, emails, obviously one primary way. So it's just J, for me, it's jehill1@uclan.ac.uk. But a better case scenario, if you can do it, is send it me via Microsoft Teams. So if you're quite okay with Microsoft Teams, if you could go into the normal search and just search for my email address, it should come up in any database, whatever, even if you're in the trust or wherever you are logged into, it should search for me across the network because I've got an open account, and then you can send it me that way, which is just drag and drag from the file. The reason why that's helpful is because I can do an audio recording as the feedback. So when I look for your assignment, I can do like here, obviously a longer audio recording, and it just saves time and it's more efficient. And if you need to, you can give me a ring as well via Teams, so it makes the whole conversation a bit easier. You do have a Microsoft Teams account within the Teams, so if you go, and I've put the URL into our class space, but if you want to find me on Teams, you can do the @ as well. If you're actually in our team space, you can put @ and then it should come up as one of the people joined to the particular team area, and you can go and find me that way. But yeah, if you can send it me via Teams, that'd be better. If not, just email me. I'm pretty flexible either way. Hopefully that helped, and me, John, and our team is always there to help you, to guide you in any way we can. So we see our jobs to get you the best grade possible. So that's really important for you to see that we will do everything in regards to looking at the rules, looking at anything we can do to get you a better grade. So that's how we are obviously employed by the university, but you're paid by us, paid by you. So that's where we see our kind of role to be, is to get you the best grade possible by whatever method we need to get you the best grade. We still obviously have standardized quality assurance processes, criteria, and ideology in regards to kind of what we expect for each grade, etc. But that's obviously something which is standardized, which can demonstrate quality and assurance. The big part is that we will try to do everything within our job role to help you to achieve within that kind of construct. So those constructs don't move, but we do try to, support you in any way we can to get you the best grade in that environment. So yeah, anything you need us to give you a hand with, anything you think we're struggling with, just give us a heads up and we'll support you in any way we can. Thank you for your time. I know it's been a lot longer than I thought. I appreciate for your kind of patience with this. Thank you. Bye.